Well, good
Hello.
afternoon.
Janice, it's snowing in Florida.
It's snowing in Florida.
It is. How cool. That's really, really cool. And it's not just a little flutter. I mean, there is stuff sticking to the ground.
Yeah. They're getting accumulation in places like New Orleans and Mobile, Alabama right now. Things that folks just would not ever think that they would be hearing about. There's snow in the South.
It's incredible. I was looking at pictures on the FAA website where you can look at airport cameras and around Mobile. There is snow everywhere.
Yeah.
Even Dolphin Island, Alabama, snow is right there on the beach. You can't tell what's sand and what's snow. It's pretty remarkable to see that.
And so we're also a part of this winter weather advisories, the alerts that have been coming out, and there's a lot of different things that are going to be changing for us over the next 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, so we are under a winter weather warning. That is unusual to say here in Jacksonville, but we are, and you can see why, because that's a current image of the snow in the Panhandle. I tell you what, these models have been pretty spot on with heavy snowfall in the Panhandle coming into Tallahassee later tonight and eventually very, very close to Jacksonville.
And what's been interesting about this particular time where we hear about the possibility of snow is there's been a consistency in these models since Thursday, Friday.
Yes.
So we've had an opportunity to give you kind of a warning in advance, and this is not a joke though. It can be very serious out there on the roads.
Right. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago we tried to dispel the potential for snow in Orlando. There were some social media posts
I did see
about
that.
We said that was absolutely nonsense. But as early as last week, we were saying, hey, this could be the real deal for this coming week, and it is playing out. So the next map here, Janice, shows the areas of snowfall. Each one of these dots is reported snow.
Yeah.
And here, this is 1 inch of snow in the Big Easy in New Orleans.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. And then as we continue to get a little bit closer to home, the big issue with this too is we don't have salt trucks.
We don't. The state is trying to get those ready just in case, and some of the interstates should be salted. It looks like, you know, the potential for freezing here in Jacksonville is a big concern, especially once we head to about 11 to midnight tonight. That's when we'll see those temperatures getting down to the freezing point in Duval, but in Georgia, those roads are going to be freezing even sooner.
Yeah, and so that's one of the really big concerns we have. I wanted to show a larger scale for folks to be able to see this at home. I don't know if we're able to do that or not.
The map one more time.
Yeah.
It might broaden out so that you can see the snow coming up through Georgia and even the snow in the Gulf of Mexico right now. So places like Navarre Beach, Pensacola, all of Escambia County, they're getting snow that is going to stick to the ground. Even Leon County will likely see snow, and that's where I went to school, and there's some big hills, so I'm wondering if anyone's going to bringing out the snowboards in Tallahassee. That's what I'd be doing.
You know, if folks don't have snowboards because they're just not used to using them, sometimes they'll just take like a can, a top off of a garbage can,
trash can.
And they'll do it. But yeah, this is going to be a very interesting evening, next 24, 48 hours as well.
So there, you can see, Janice, how the snow is now crossing I-75 and through central Georgia. And Waycross, you could see the snow here as we approach sunset and just thereafter.
Yeah.
This is rain.
Yeah, obviously right now, that's all we're getting. So this is, I think, important to mention to viewers who may say, okay, well, if we're going to get freezing rain, why aren't we getting it now? And it's because of the current temperatures.
Right. It's obviously warm out there. It's cold, but it's warmer than 32. So the point is, it's not just how cold it is at the surface, but above us as well. And I think throughout the evening, it's going to be hard to get freezing temperatures from the ground all the way up. So for that to happen in Jacksonville, that's the way you would get snow. And since I don't see those linking up, we might wind up with sleet instead. Yeah.
And so we do have a broad map of our winter alerts that you can see in the pink and in the purple. As far as the road conditions, right now we're doing okay. But again, as Mark just mentioned, out west you can see where there's all of the snow along I-10, which is really going to put things to a halt as far as transportation for at least another day or two. And then you have our ice impacts as well here.
Yeah, so what might be hard to see on the screen are these pockets of orange which show moderate to major areas where there could be icing on the roads, and that would be very detrimental if you were trying to drive on the stretch of I-10 from the Beltway in Duval back in through McClenny, Glen St. Mary, over towards Lake City. This stretch of I-10 is where we're going to see some of the heaviest ice on the roads. As you get further into Georgia, there'll still be ice, but the tendency will be for what's coming down to be just solid snow and not that cold rain that hits the freezing ground and glazes over.
And it's interesting, last time with Waycross, we had an accumulation, I think 4 inches in 2018.
Yeah, it was snowy. I remember
It was cool to
seeing
see.
cars with Georgia plates driving down into Florida with snow on the bumpers.
Unbelievable. And now here is just one of the forecasts for our freezing rain possibilities, which I think would have the biggest impact on a lot of people in our viewing area.
So it's interesting how it's been showing a bullseye of ice around the St. Mary's area and also some hot spots in Baker County out towards Columbia County. But the closer you get to the river, notice the thermal expansion of the warmer waters in the river kind of attenuates the amount of ice that we would see. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously, it's a little more vague how much ice we could get into Duval. It looks more like it'll be confined in western Duval.
Yeah.
But I would still caution people to try to stay off the roads, especially after midnight tonight in Duval. Beaches look pretty immune to seeing any type of ice there. The winds are going to be quite strong through the night tonight.
Yeah. Now, this is something folks have been talking a lot about, black ice. I'm familiar with it from living up north. It's just something that you kind of deal with, and you typically choose to stay off the road because of it. But as far as the black ice, this ends up being something challenging that folks could be dealing with. So once that freezing rain does move through in areas where it could potentially accumulate in the early morning hours for Wednesday, you don't want to be on the road during that time.
Right. Well, you and I, we were both looking at the rainfall totals, over an inch and a quarter, and if we get that much rain, that's a lot of rain, and hopefully it would whiten up that ice. Sometimes you get black ice, which is quite transparent on the roads, and that usually is the result of finer rains, lighter quantities of rain. But since we are expecting some pretty heavy rainfall, that might be a visual clue as to where the ice is. Whether or not it's transparent or icy, it's still dangerous.
It's still dangerous,
and I doubt if you've lived in Florida or a native, you probably don't have much experience driving on it. I don't, and that's why I'm going to try to, just stay away and get to my destination tomorrow before things ice over.
Yeah, and so this is just really an explainer of what that means as far as like the light rain with the conditions and whether or not it could freeze over. And then our temperatures for tonight, and also pull your mic up, I want to make sure everybody can hear us, because it might be low. But our temperatures for tonight in the upper 20s, mid to low 40s along the coast. We see they're still above freezing for the temperatures forecasted for tonight along the coast. But as we get further inland, 20s for pretty much everyone.
That's right, except right along the beach, we could have winds at 30 and gusts to even higher than that along the beach. And it's going to be out of the north. And with that north wind, notice how it comes onshore, the way the coast curves back. So that is the buffer from the freeze along the beaches. The one spot where that wind is actually offshore or sideshore, notice how those temperatures drop along the Sea Isles area in Georgia. This is where snow may reach the beach once you get across the St. Mary's River. And this also kind of zeroes in on all that ice accumulation in that area as well. So I think in Jacksonville, we could start seeing freezing temperatures midnight to 1 a.m. So we're possibly looking at a 12 to 15 hour freeze duration.
Wow.
That's a long time
Yeah.
being below freezing. So even though it could be raining through dawn, that is a long time of freezing temperatures with rain, and that's why that ice will accumulate. And the fact that tomorrow we might only get to 41 degrees in the afternoon, that's it. If we only get to 41, that is the coolest afternoon high temperature on record for Jacksonville. That would be what we call a record low maximum. And that's not really warm enough to thaw ice, right?
No, not at all.
It's going to take a while for the ice to thaw, and because of that, there is a winter storm advisory until 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
And that's the part that I think is most interesting about about this is how long we're going to have those really frigid temperatures.
Right.
Typically, we may have it for a couple of hours, warm air will move it out, and then we're back to normal almost. But we're extremely below average for our temperatures as well for this time of year.
Low sun angle, a lot of cloud cover. It's going to take a while to even try to boost those temperatures, and they're really not going to get much higher for tomorrow.
You were mentioning the winds as well. They're going to be breezy for us.
So this shows those winds staying up here through the evening, and the green here is the rainfall that we'll be dealing with. So watch how the rain stays with us here through at least 7 o'clock tonight, and then we start getting that sleet and pink showing up, dropping south, and the pink is really what covers up much of the I-10 corridor. So sleet and ice.
And then we still have that forecasting for the 2 to 4 inches of snow in the blue from Valdosta way across up into Savannah, but then also looking at Brunswick getting a possibility as well. It will be tricky for Duval County. Nassau, more likely, but it looks like it's going to be really tricky for Duval County.
Yeah, there's a lot of water around Duval, from the rivers to the salt marshes and even into Nassau. But you notice, like, right up until about the I-95 corridor, it's going to be on that verge of cold rain, a little bit of slush mixed in there, maybe even some grapple ice coming down. But then that snow band is very pronounced from Tallahassee through Waycross. That's where we're really not going to have any uncertainty as to where that snow is going to be.
And then also, and then for our neighbors in Baker and Columbia County, concerned about them as well when it comes to the possibility of having to deal with ice, and it moves even further south.
Even 9 o'clock tomorrow, still some precipitation coming down, so we'll still be dealing with freezing temperatures. So that is going to add to the ice factor on the roads. Even though Georgia, your rain's cutting off tomorrow morning, areas in northeast Florida will be cold rains, some ice out there, and maybe a flurry as well, but nothing really sticking.
Well, and then also when you're talking about the ability for the precipitation to finally melt, I don't want people to think that this is like a hurricane where once it moves through, then it's an all clear as far as the weather, because you still have to give time for this to melt. Wednesday is really going to be a bust of a day.
It is, and a lot of people are planning their outdoor activities. If you're on the job site, forget it. I mean, there's just too much danger there. There's going to be winds. It's going to be in the 30s through pretty much all day, and that is just not a good work environment to be in.
It's not safe.
Not safe at all. And so we plotted these timelines here for you to get a sense of when it begins, when it ends, and the snow as soon as 7 o'clock tonight through southern Georgia.
It's exciting, but
it's pretty cool, you know. So you probably won't see much coming down from the sky unless you're underneath the lights tonight, because by sunrise, a lot of the snowfall will be over with in Georgia. Now, what will be interesting sunrise tomorrow around Jacksonville, we might see during the pre-dawn hours a few flakes in the sky, and maybe some of that will land on the ground. So that's going to be cool. A bit of a letdown, though. It's going to be a raw, cold rain in our southern areas, and that rain is going to be at least through 9 o'clock tomorrow, and maybe even 10 and 11, just how quickly it clears out. But it looks like, you know, by the afternoon things will dry out, but more rain Thursday as well. And the question is there another round of rain or snow potential for Thursday? And that is a definite no. So let's just get through this, and then that's the end of your worries.
Yeah, Wednesday's our big day. But then also, it's going to be interesting for folks, and hopefully if you know anyone that's south that typically goes north driving through northeast Florida and southeast Georgia, make sure you let them know that commuting from southern Florida is not the same commute you're going to have once you get closer to that Florida-Georgia border. It can become very dangerous, and I feel like there's just going to be a halt between I-75, I-10, and 95 and I-10 between 11 p.m. and 11 a.m. That's a 12-hour stretch, and it doesn't even count for the time for melting and recovery at all.
That's a pretty big stretch of I-95 that's going to be dealing with icy conditions. Once you cross the St. Mary's River, you're going all the way up to beyond Savannah, where you could be dealing with perilous conditions. And that's through tonight and into early tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So if you haven't left now, chances are there's really no window for you to really get north.
Exactly.
Unless you were to leave maybe right now, you could try to beat it.
And it looks like this ice could shift all the way up north of Charleston.
Yes, that's incredible. But this is such a southern latitude that some of the mountains in North Carolina are missing out on the snow. So that's a real head scratcher for them, where usually they are too far south to capture the snow. Now they're too far north, which is a real paradox in how unusual this weather is.
I think they're going to pass on this one and be okay with it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So this is specifically a forecast for the snow totals. These have been teeter-tottering.
They
were extreme last
It
week.
went up to 8 inches.
Yeah, it went up to 8 inches for Waycross like last Friday, Saturday, and now it's shifted down. It went down to about 3.5 over the weekend, and now we're up to 4 for Waycross, Homerville, and Valdosta.
Yeah.
But look at Brunswick. Now it's looking at about 3 inches. It's actually
That's high.
increased.
That's really high.
Yeah.
And you got to wonder, too, how much of a lake effect snow pattern plays into this. If we get a little bit of a north or onshore flow, in the like Buffalo, they get dumped on with
Michigan.
snow, all the moisture coming in off the lakes. Well, here we have moisture coming in off the Atlantic. So it'll be a real anomaly if something like that happens. But this snow band, I do think is on the higher side. If we get 4 inches, it's certainly attainable. But there is like a 60% chance of at least an inch of snowfall. Those are very, very high odds.
Right.
And so we're almost saying there's a given for snow in Georgia.
Right. And then only about 1/10 of an inch
Yeah,
for Jacksonville.
right. So
I mean, we'll get a little, if we do, we'll get a little glaze of snow.
A dusting of
Yeah.
maybe some snow. And it's possible it could stick. I just don't think it's going to be accumulating too much.
Yeah, and if it's more of a wet snow, we won't see it for long.
So this is just planning out the timeline. So by 6 o'clock, we've got that rain that's coming back. We had showers around this morning. They've been intermittent here through the day, but we're in this lull, and then it starts coming in, and it's going to be steady all night long. It's a slow-moving, low-pressure system, but it's also what we call isotropic lift. So when you have cold air, so the bottom of a hamburger bun and where the meat is maybe a little bit warmer air riding up over that bottom bun that's really cold, you can get light rain. Well, if it's cold there, then that can freeze as well. So a messy night.
It's going to be a messy night. It's going to be a dangerous night. I would like to encourage people now, if you have anything you need to do outdoors, such as getting a little bit more food, then maybe fill up your pantry. If you decided to go grocery shopping tomorrow, you need to do it tonight. Just get what you need.
And one thing we don't talk about is the potential for power outages in a winter storm brings a new danger. If you don't have power and you don't have heat, what are you going to do to weather the cold for what could be over 10 hours of freezing temperature? So you may want to consider a place that has more reliable power, or if you can't do that, stock up on extra blankets.
Yes.
And try to just prepare, because I do think power is going to go out in our western areas.
And it's important, folks, to understand the reason this could happen is especially if we have ice that starts to essentially gather on those power lines. It could weigh down those power lines and cause them to snap. Happens all the time in the Midwest. So having layers of blankets, typically folks, if they can't leave once this happens because there's still ice on the road or the roads are slippery, then you've got to figure it out at home.
So obviously if you have power lines, that's going to be a little bit more unstable than underground utilities that some neighborhoods have. So if you're in one of those newer HOAs or subdivisions, then chances are you will have power if they're buried. So we've got the issues with the power. We've got wind chills, which are going to be down in the teens. That's another problem for tomorrow. And so another reason, even if you don't slip and slide on the car, if you do have car issues, you don't want to be stuck out there walking in these type of conditions overnight. So pipes, the pipe situation is cold enough where there could be a hard freeze. So you should maybe drip your pipe if the bib faucet is exposed, you can blanket those
Yep.
around the side of your house. If you have crawl space under your homes, those tend to be more prone for the expansion of the water in the pipes to cause a rupture.
Yep.
The next graphic is the extended forecast, because those tips that we just recommended for plants and pets, they're going to be needed for
the whole
next
week.
several nights. So we're looking at Wednesday morning freeze, Thursday morning freeze, Friday morning
Yep.
freeze, Saturday morning freeze. So that is going to put us at over a dozen freezes just for January alone. That's going to put us in one of the top 10.
I think this is record. It might be record breaking, wouldn't it? For this amount of freezes, back to back to back to back.
It could be. So 2010 was 44 freezes in the whole season. I don't know exactly how many of those happened in January, but it's unlikely that we would have beat that year.
That is
was
a lot.
That was the cold one where
Okay.
we got all those freezes racked up. So, we do start warming up, and it looks like by the 27th and 28th, we're back into the 70s. And we deserve some 70s. There's only been like 2 days in January where we've been in the 70s.
Yeah, where it's really been nice.
It's been
for us.
quite brutal here across our area. I'm ready for some warm up.
You're ready for the warm up.
Yep,
And he actually likes to ski,
I do, but
but not in Florida.
no. I like deep powder. I know we're not getting that.
No, we're not.
Not at all.
Well, folks, please make sure that you are prepared. Be prepared to stay at home tonight into most of tomorrow and even probably into the afternoon of Wednesday. Likely the roads will be slippery. There will be snow accumulation. You saw how it does taper, though, from southeast Georgia into northeast Florida. If you're along the beaches in Florida, you likely won't see any snow or freezing rain. But if you're in southeast Georgia, you could get a little bit of all of those, even if you're along the coast. So just make sure you bundle up, have extra blankets in case you lose your power. And we're going to continue bringing you updates throughout the rest of this day. And we're going to be doing extended coverage through tonight and also through Wednesday.
Yeah, I'll be back starting at 1 a.m. So we'll
1
be here
a.m.
around the clock. It's like a flurricane.
You know what?
Flurricane.
You're going to make that. It's going to go viral, and it's going to be his fault. Folks, thank you so much
right.
for checking in for this live stream with your extended weather forecast coverage as we get ready for this winter weather.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye.